contemplating automation, we are inclined to think about industrial processes and machineries. While a good example, remember that automation solves not only blue collar labor issues, it also solves the white collar variety. The last 10 years saw the emergence of this new technology that is aimed at automating a lot of processes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to One More Analytics Insight podcast. This is Priya Dialani, your host for today. While automation is old as the industrial revolution, digitization greatly increased activities that could be automated. However, as we know more about the RPA tools and different technologies, initial tools for automation, which include scripts, macros, bots, or automating simple tasks, repetitive processes. There are a lot of things that we are yet to explore. So this makes sense because most core corporate processes are quite repetitive, but not repetitive enough to completely take human out of the loop with simple programming. However, as those processes are automated with the help of more programming and better RPA tools, processes that require high level cognitive functions are next in the line for automation. Now, what are these cognitive functions? So, today with us, we have Alex Babin, CEO and co founder of ZERØ. Hi, Alex, how are you doing?
Hi, Priya. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good too. Thank you so much. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Nice. So let's start with telling our listeners more about ZERØ, its specialization, services it offers, what exactly it tries to solve.
Absolutely. So ZERØ is a company that builds the technology and the product to automate processes for knowledge workers. And it's really important because knowledge workers are often being bypassed by automation. And the reason is that of that happening is that sometimes processes for that requires mimicking how human beings are making decisions is really hard to automate. So that's what we specialize on, building products for automation of those high value repetitive processes that requires mimicking the decision making process.
Quite interesting to know about ZERØ, and I think that's quite a core problem that probably ZERØ is trying to solve, because yes, automation has always been focusing on automating tasks which are more repetitive and manual, and just like I had mentioned, it's also about more cognitive functions. Having said that, in a nutshell, artificial intelligence, if we consider, is a broad concept of creating machines that are able to solve narrow problems like humans do. So, as any person would, AI should learn the information and process first. And machine learning comes as a subset of AI that can solve problems by learning from data. So, as artificial intelligence technologies are becoming more accessible, RPA is also facing opportunities to overcome current limitations. So, we want to know with what mission the company was set up. And can you tell us about your journey also since the inception of the company?
Absolutely. So one of the main differentiators for us when we were setting up our mission was that we didn't want to take people out of those loops. So basically, we were not automating things to remove people from the process. That's why we've been called the productivity automation. So our mission was always to help people to stay in the game longer by providing them with automation of things that they can help them produce more with less without removing them from the process. So that's our mission from the very beginning, and we started by focusing on one vertical and after another, and one process after another. And remember, what was said, that our main goal is to automate high value processes, not sometimes high volume processes. The processes that requires a lot of attention, and sometimes a price of doing nothing or making a mistake is really high. And in this case, cognitive productivity automation can shine because it can provide end users with the tools that they never had before and being bypassed by automation. But in this case, those tools can provide them with the next level of productivity so they can produce more with less and stay in the game longer.
Quite an impressive, I think, the mission that probably you guys are following, and it's why it's very important that, just like we had mentioned, that automation has always been known for automating repetitive and manual tasks, but here you're trying to solve that how we can also automate value-added tasks and of course enhance and elevate human skills as well accordingly. So it's obvious that yeah, advantages of RPA can override certain limitations of automation as well. However, reliance on human interaction is still a big issue and a problem which can probably solve with the help of artificial intelligence. Yet there are a lot of controversies surrounding that, how it can do, whether it will be ethical to do, and a lot of other controversies as well. So we want to know what has been your proactive role and your contribution towards the industry and as well as the company.
So I agree with you that there are a lot of conversation about ethical component of automation, AI, and so on and so forth. In our case, we're not trying to compare ourselves with RPA or any other type of automation. Actually, we do not compete at all. We are next level of automation that doesn't require first removing people, as I already said, removing people from the loop, but also we try to provide people with something that never been done before, basically getting them an assistance in what they're doing, what they're doing right now, but make it happen on the next level. So that's our main goal, and that's how we want to bring in this kind of a new ethical angle into what being seen as a potentially big problem for automation companies out there.
Definitely, I think that's quite an issue that we have been facing, and it's quite interesting to know how ZERØ is working towards solving this ethical issue and making sure that the technology is credible and reliable enough for humans to use, and even organizations to use without violating any privacy issues or moral or ethical values as well. So since we're talking about cognitive functions and cognitive capabilities, I just want to point out that one of Japan's leading insurance firms, Fukuoka Mutual Life Insurance, claims to have replaced 34 human tasks with IBM Watson. Watson, that is an AI technology. Now, all this was possible through cognitive automation. Can you brief us about what exactly cognitive process automation is, and if you can reflect on the example also that I quoted?
Absolutely. So cognitive means that it mimics the human behavior or human decision-making process. I'll give you an example outside of technology. Let's say you and I want to go outside and get from our homes to our offices, and we have an assumption that it's raining outside. So you can decide to take an umbrella, and I can decide to take a raincoat, and that will serve us with the goal of basically getting to the office dry without getting wet. So that's how human brain works. We decide based on the limited information we have. So in this case, we had an assumption that it's raining outside. So machines are not very good at operating with high level of uncertainty or lack of information. In this case, it should be mimicking the way people work or people make decisions. And that broadens the possibilities for automation. And in this case, processes that never been automated before can be automated. And I'll give you an example of what one of the products that ZERØ is doing. For example, ZERØ is providing the DLP, data loss prevention. So let's say you're sending an email and you added 5 people in CC, and accidentally you added a wrong person there, wrong John Smith. So in this case, traditional automation will not pick up the differences or will not see the anomaly there because it doesn't understand what project or matter or client each email belongs to. But in case of cognitive productivity automation, it can be picked up and saying, wait a second, there is a high level of probability that is the wrong John Smith. And that will raise the red flag. So it might be also wrong, but in this case, the price of making a mistake and sending the confidential information to the wrong person is absolutely higher than the risk of making a mistake and saying that's the wrong John Smith when it's the right John Smith. So in this case, that's exactly how human brain works. We look into parameters and compare them with, is it the right or wrong? Is it the left or right? And so on and so forth. So in this case, cognitive automation is the only tool that can solve those type of problems and take automation to that type of level.
First of all, thank you so much, Alex, for giving such an easy answer of what exactly cognitive process automation is. I'm sure certain listeners who don't have a technical background and also want to know about this particular technology, the examples that you gave were quite evident enough to understand what exactly the entire process is. So, in a nutshell, I would say that cognitive automation improves the efficiency and quality of computer generated responses as well. So, in fact, cognitive processes are overtaking nearly 20% of the service desk interactions, according to a report. Now, RP is a phenomenal method for automating structure, low complexity, and high volume tasks. But just like you said, you're more focusing on high value added tasks. So it can take the burden of simple data entry of a team, leading to improved employee satisfaction and engagement as well. But again, I feel while cognitive process automation is quite a new entrant in the field of technology, and many people are yet to know the fundamentals of this technology. So the most frequently asked question is how it is different from RPA. So we also want to know from you, how can you differentiate RPA and cognitive process automation, and is there any important role ZERØ plays here?
Mhm. Great question, actually. So RPA, as you mentioned at the very beginning, RPA is more focused on high volume, low-level tasks that can be automated and replace people in when performing those tasks. Most likely, it's connected. Sometimes they're connecting different systems and sending data between those. Uh, Cognitive productivity automation or cognitive process automation, on the other hand, is focusing on connecting people, helping people work with existing systems on higher levels. So elevating the productivity with the help of automation. Like, for example, data processing, data entry. One of the examples I can bring up is when professionals need to put content into a specific place, let's say like a document management system or content management system or CRM, it typically requires a person to think about different parameters. What is the client, what is the matter or project, and then put it in there. So it's a decision-making process. In this case, RPA cannot, in many cases, will not be able to provide that level of detail or not be able to be sophisticated enough to decide, is it that client or this client? And cognitive productivity automation, on the other hand, actually focused on doing that thing, exactly that thing, deciding whether it's A or B, if it's right or wrong. So on the other hand, one of the biggest differentiators is that having this complexity and level of advanced level of cognitive component, in most of the cases, it doesn't require training. So cognitive productivity automation basically looks into human behavior, previous human behavior, and starts mimicking this process. That's with the help of, we call it individual virtual agents that can automate specific things, but they come pre-trained. So unlike RPA in many cases, when you have to do the process mapping and then connect the systems, CPA comes pre-trained and it starts working from the very beginning. But also a very important differentiator is that it accumulates knowledge, learns during the process, and with time becomes more and more advanced and brings more value for that individual user. Unlike RPA, that in many cases degrade over time. So that's a different concept here. Value of the volume of the value that the solution provides increases over time.
Definitely, I think it's quite evident that there's this vast difference between RPA and cognitive process automation. Now, where do we tend to use human instead of machines? So for example, if you consider an automated home security system which is programmed to function, that is based on millions of decisions, so it can still encounter situation when it does not know what to do, right? And machines can make logical decisions in many unforeseen situations using cognitive neuroscience. Now, the technologies to make cognitive based decisions are possible, which includes technologies like NLP, text analytics, machine learning, semantic analytics, and more. So there's this wide pool of technologies that we can make use of. But we want to know, not since we know that cognitive process automation is quietly different from RPA, but we want to know that how can we, and why do you think we should harness the power of cognitive process automation?
Um, Great question. Actually, if we look at any organization in the world, the most important thing for any organization is the productivity, because the productivity and efficiency of organization is the sum of individual productivities of its components or workers or units. So in this case, increasing productivity for one unit doesn't make a lot of change, but increasing productivity and efficiency for every single or most of the units is where the gold nugget is, because that's dramatically increases the output of the whole organization. So in this case, the independent, self-learning, self-adjusting system that can be implemented across organization basically overnight and start producing results next day, that's where the holy grail of automation is. Instead of spending millions of dollars on setting up systems, connecting dots, and then seeing those systems degrade over time, you can basically get something that doesn't automate everything that you might need to be automated, but automates the most high value added processes and increase your productivity immediately with, we call it ROI on the first day, and it's easy to track. So in these cases, RPA and CPA are not competitive. They complement each other. So there are some processes that can be automated by RPA much more effectively. But cognitive productivity automation can take care of the high value processes that actually bring the 80% of the value for the organization. So they're not mutually exclusive, but complement each other.
Quite interesting. I think that was how they're mutually exclusive. Um, but again, I think when we're talking about machines and automation, it's typically we use more of machines when we're talking about documentation, decision making, and processes which aren't clearly defined. Now, going back to one example of insurance application. Now we think of claims process. Would you ever let a bot lacking intelligence determine whether a claim is approved? Likely no, right? So I think cognitive process automation, as far as what I understood, is it can learn from observing claim adjusters and create its own algorithms for approving or denying claims. If it isn't sure what to do, it will ask your team for help, or learn why, and then continue with the process as seamlessly as a human. I'm not sure it was as per my understanding of whatever we have been talking about CPA.
That's
So,
correct.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, since it's like that, why do you think professional service providers that are replacing RPA solutions with cognitive process solution should go ahead with that? And how has Zero helped its client as well?
That's a great question. So let me give you a couple of examples. Recently, we published a case study with one of our clients, and it's a law firm. And I'll there are multiple processes that have been automated by Zero for that client. But in this case, I want to bring up an example of time management and time capture automation. So many things, especially in the professional services world, is being done manually. So for in this example, attorneys had to capture billable time manually, describe them, create narrative, select matter and client for each individual time card, and then submit it to the time capturing or billing system. And there are people who are doing it contemporaneously, basically in real time. And some people are postponing it for the last moment, end of the week, end of the month. And the quality of the time being captured is basically is degrading over time. So with automation, when Zero automated this time capture process, it became real time, and all the narratives being created automatically, matters and clients being selected automatically by AI, and basically people didn't have to spend time on producing that work anymore. What they were started doing, the shift became into checking those time cards when they were already submitted into the billing system. So it's kind of a supervising the work that AI has done instead of doing it manually. So the same concept can be applied to any other professional services industries like accounting, management consulting, insurance. In your example, when the claim can be analyzed and the productivity automation solution can decide whether this claim needs to be approved or not, this system can build its own algorithms and it's flexible enough to understand what metrics to take in for the analysis and what to put aside based on the previous interactions and the data that are already there. So in this case, that's the flexible tool that actually adjusts itself to the way this particular organization works. So typically the solutions come pre-trained, the industry pre-trained, but they adjust itself once being deployed, and it happens pretty quickly when the solution gets access to the historical data. That's what makes it so effective.
Definitely. I think thank you for giving us such an interesting use case where you have actually implemented CPA for our listeners to understand and how effective it is. Now, since we have comparing CPA and RPA, I would like to point out that one issue or one key issue with traditional RPA is the cost. Now, organizations with millions in their innovation budget can build or outsource the technical expertise required to automate each individual process in an organization. So, I think it can take anywhere around 9 to 12 months to automate one process, and only works if the process and business logic stays the exact same. So even if we introduce a minor change, I think it will require massive development and testing costs again. So that's one challenge that we're talking about RPA. But we want to know the challenges that probably you have faced or Zero has faced till now, and how have you tried to overcome those challenges?
Great question. So unlike RPA, CPA comes, as I said, pre-trained, and it doesn't require those lengthy projects to take place. It can be deployed overnight by push of a button, and everyone can get it. And then it starts adjusting itself to the way this individual person works. So that's the flexibility on the user side. Unlike RPA, it doesn't require connecting many systems to each other, but it's being connected to the legacy system itself. So in this case, there's some challenges that I can mention. For example, if there is a self-written solution or self-created solution for an enterprise or a legacy system that doesn't have an API, typically CPA is connected through API system. In this case, it might take some time to integrate it with existing legacy system. But once integrated through API, it becomes super flexible. So whatever is being changed, the person might start working differently. The process might be changed across the whole organization. CPA is typically flexible enough to adjust itself on a particular level to those changes without remapping it or redoing it. So that's the upside of CPA if you compare it with RPA. On the other hand, in many cases, CPA and RPA can work together, especially when connecting to legacy systems. So sometimes instead of using API, it's much easier to use existing RPA solution and make CPA to be cognitive productivity automation to be the brain and RPA to be the muscles of this automation process.
Makes sense. Totally, it makes sense that why we should definitely go for cognitive automotive solutions, because I think that would be the new AI in the future, I believe. Having said that, one last question for you, Alex. And how do you think the future of CPA, and do you think RPA will also play an important role that can drive the adoption of CPA? And any advice that you would like to give to enterprises on how they can effectively embrace a CPA?
I think CPA and RPA can coexist beautifully together. They do not compete because in most of the cases, cognitive productivity automation is focusing on very important and high value processes, leaving the rest for RPA. But my suggestion for the organization is to look for this specific points where or specific processes where there is a high value that can be automated and effectively drive the productivity up dramatically. In this case, the overall productivity organization can dramatically increase basically overnight. If you think just about increasing productivity of your workers by 5% each, and let's say you have 1,000 people in your organization, that's an enormous increase in overall productivity for the whole company. So those processes, there are a few of them, but typically they consume a lot of mental and brain power of knowledge workers. And not all the processes are created equal. Not all of them can be equally automated, but those that require a lot of time and efforts can be automated effectively with the help of CPA, and the rest can be automated with RPA. So that's a quality versus quantity question here. And in many cases, quality is much more important. Quality of automation and the value of those processes is much more important than the volume.
Definitely, quality is always important in terms of any technology that you are using, and not just in terms of differentiation between RPA and CPA. So, I believe cognitive systems are great for driving meaningful conclusions from unstructured data. Many back and front office operations can be automated for improving efficiency, especially in consumer facing functions, to understand the requirements and feedback. Now, for instance, cognitive automation comes with powerful emotion recognition capabilities as well. So it can help with making sense of consumer tweets, social updates through face recognition and analyzing text. Now, since cognitive automation solution can help enterprises to adapt quickly and respond to new insights and information, it is becoming very crucial for businesses and enterprise all over the world to become a customer centric business. Well, thank you so much, Alex. It was a pleasure having you with us. I think we have learned more about the new technology today and how CPA can be the future in terms of automation. Thank you so much for taking out time for our podcast.
Thank you, Priya. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. For our listeners, watch this space for more podcasts, and also we are available on Spotify and Google Podcast. Go ahead and listen to our past podcast as well. Thank you so much.